Senator Brown.
Members of the committee, my thoughts on the death penalty have gone through quite an evolution over the years. And when I was younger, it all seemed quite simple. I must confess that I could have been described as a hang 'em high type. But things change, and so did I. You know, you've all heard the arguments against the death penalty. With all the legal costs, it's more expensive. Courts don't always treat everyone equally, and it's not really a deterrent. But I think if those were the only reasons, I really don't think I would have changed my mind on the death penalty. However, when it comes to the issue of making mistakes, that's where my own philosophy about life has really challenged me. Most of you know I'm pro-life, and I feel that life is precious from the womb to a natural death. It is that belief that has brought me to really question the use of capital punishment. Now, my wife, who I've mentioned on this floor before, she's always the type that brings me back to reality. And she has it all summed up in one easy statement. She says, abortion is the taking of an innocent life, and capital punishment is the taking of a guilty life. And I guess that makes a lot of sense. It's pretty simple, easy to understand. But is it always a guilty life? Is it always a guilty life? I guess if that statement were true, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. Now, I have to tell you a very short story, and it was just this week that I was trying to find an article in which I was quoted, and I was trying to look it up, and the easiest way for me to do it was to Google my name. So I put Roy Brown out there, and to my surprise, I found an article about another Roy Brown. And the sentence, the initial two sentences of the article kind of set me back in my chair. And it said, and I quote, "After spending 15 years in the New York prison for murder, Roy Brown was exonerated through DNA evidence and is now free." Roy Brown is the 8th person in New York in the last 13 months to be exonerated, unquote. Yes, mistakes do happen. And we can all come up with all kinds of animals and terrible people. But if we keep the death penalty in place for those animals, mistakes will still happen. Now, just so you don't think I've completely gone soft on these heinous criminals, I say lock them up and throw away the key for life without any possibility of parole. No TV, no computers, no amenities of any kind, with constant electronic monitoring. Frankly, killing some of these people is easier on them, is easier than making them stay in prison. Now, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I contend that this is probably one of the most difficult decisions of this session. And I would tell you, every one of you, that I would agree that the death penalty should continue if it was less expensive in every case, if the courts treated the rich and poor equally, if it truly was a deterrent, and if everyone that was executed was guilty. Unfortunately, the sad truth is, most of the time, it's more expensive. Most of the time, the courts do not dispense justice equally. Most of the time, it is not a deterrent. And sometimes, yes, sometimes, they are innocent. Members of the committee, I told you at the beginning of this that my philosophy about life challenged me to come to this decision, so I challenge you, each one of you here today. Because when you push that button today, if you push that green button, you are saying that even a guilty life is worth saving. Should not those innocent lives that my wife mentioned in that simple statement get the same consideration next time you have a vote on that issue? Those innocent lives are in much more danger than anyone on death row.